Hey everyone, this is Alan. Sorry if I sound a little bit under the weather, but I have a little bit of a cold. So, okay, I am sitting in my car outside the cinema, and in just a few minutes, I'm going to walk inside and see a brand new Superman movie, James Gunn's Superman. The first chapter of a new DC era, I suppose, and maybe, the start of something truly special. And right now, I was just thinking to myself that in this moment, before the opening credits roll, before a single frame hits the screen, I'm just hopeful, because right now everything is still possible. The film hasn't made any choices I can't unsee. The performances haven't been judged, the tone hasn't been locked, the score hasn't lifted me or let me down. Right now, this film still exists as pure potential to me, and it could go anyway, And as a lifetime Superman fan, there's something really special about that. You rarely get this feeling. In fact, it's the third time I've experienced this in 40 years, once in 2006, once in 2013, and now today. So in a few hours, I'll know what kind of Superman story this is. After all the hype and all the talk and, all the discussion and all the analysis over the last few years with Rob on the podcast, both on the show and in our private discussions. I'll have opinions, probably probably too many. I'll be messaging Rob, Zach, Matt, everybody else that we hang out with in the community. We'll be prepping a full podcast breakdown. I'll rewatch it. I'll analyze it. It'll sit with me for a while. But right now, in this moment, I'm just a fan sitting in his car, heart racing like a kid again. And just to be clear, I love this character. I always have, and I always will. I love that he's not cool because he's dark or violent or edgy. He's cool because he's aspirational. He's moral. He's kind. He makes the right choice even when it's the hardest thing to do. Superman at his best reminds us that you don't need to be invincible to be strong. You don't need to be perfect to inspire people. He's not a god. He's just a man who just happens to be from another planet, a refugee. And he chooses to do good every single time. That's why this matters and why I'm so hopeful for this film. And in a way, this is the perfect moment because, as I said earlier, it's potential right now. This film could go any one of 100 ways for me. Once I see it, it's going to be set in stone, and that's the film that I'll have for the rest of my life. But right now, I don't know what's ahead. And yeah, I know Superman movies come with pressure, legacy, expectations, fans like me who carry decades of history into every showing. But with James Gunn at the helm, there's this strange feeling in the air, the sense that maybe we're about to witness something honest and genuine that understands the soul of who Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman really is, If it even comes close to nailing that, then this isn't just another superhero movie. It's a chance to, reconnect with the core of why we fell in love with these stories in the first place. So, here we go. The doors are right there in front of me. Unfortunately, my wife couldn't make it today. I'm seeing this one solo. Rob is seeing it in Dublin with his fiance, but we have family coming over from the States today of all days. So my wife ended up having to stay home to prep the house. So I'm here on my own. The lights will dim soon, and whatever this movie turns out to be, good, great, flawed, unforgettable, I'm just grateful for this moment here where there's endless possibilities ahead of me. I know nothing really about this film. I know very little about the content of it, the story of it. I've only ever watched the first trailer. I've watched nothing since. I've really just put myself in the dark. Over the last few days, I've been a little bit disappointed. I've said on the Inside All-Star Facebook group, the All-Star Superfan Facebook group, that the release feels a little bit disjointed, I think. I was really hoping for this shared experience amongst all Superman fans today on release day. And the fact that so many people have seen the film already in the last few days because of the Amazon Prime early screenings in the US and stuff, it kind of feels like I'm late to the show, even though today is the official release date. So I have been a little bit disappointed by that. But overall, this is the moment where anything can still happen. And I'm really excited. And I hope that I love it. And even if I don't, that's okay too. So I guess I'll talk to you guys on the other side. Take care.
We talk Superman, and we know what's happening. We talk Superman, and we cover everything.
Hello and welcome to the Mighty Crabcast, the podcast where we delve into the full 8-year legacy of the Uranus award-winning 90s soft rock phenomenon, the Mighty Crabjoys. Here you'll find everything from deep dives into their experimental album Love Sucks Skate Parks, all the way through to their triumphant reunion at the 2004 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, and we've got interviews with Chad Thudbury and Griffin Stone. I'm joined as always by my trusty co-host Alan Burke. Alan, do you have your VIP ticket for Crabfest 06?
Oh my god, man, I can't wait for Crabfest 06. I'm a little bit hoarse from Crabfest last night, to be honest with you.
Yeah, same actually.
So for those listening, number one, I'm recording in a different room just in case my audio sounds a little bit different, but it's also like 7 a.m. and me and Rob are more night owls. We usually record around 9 p.m. at the earliest, but we wanted to get this one out as quickly as we could.
We're not morning people.
We're not morning people. But I was explaining to Rob there that I have guests staying over tonight, so I'm trying not to wake them. So I'm recording out of my dining room, so my audio might be a little bit more echoey than normal, but I hope you'll forgive us. So,
Alan, at this point in time, everyone has heard your car park feelings going into the movie, which was absolutely lovely. And I didn't do one of those because I didn't really have anything to add to it, except to say that I completely agree with you about the advanced preview screening thing. I really felt that as well. I felt like... I mean, I hate saying it's not fair. It's a fucking movie. It's you know, there's millions of dollars behind it. They do these things for marketing reasons, cynical marketing reasons, you know. But it was frustrating that so many people we know and so many people we respect saw the movie like on Monday, and we had to wait a full week, and it was just like what like why, you know? And there was a press screening here in Ireland. I'm a little bit like, I don't really want to go reaching out to Warner Brothers asking them, you know, can we come along to the press screening, because it just makes me feel weird, because if we don't like the movie, then
you're kind of beholden.
It gets very awkward then. You're putting someone in an awkward position then. So I specifically didn't do that, but next year for Supergirl, I'm like, fuck, maybe I will do that. Like it just really frustrated me that we had to wait so long and had to do a social media blackout for it. And I know some people can just turn off their phones and not look at Facebook. I don't really have that luxury, but, you know, between my job and just, you know, being a social media addict, it's very frustrating having to do that for days on end. How did you find that?
I don't think I found it as difficult because I'm not on Twitter anymore. The fact that I'm gone from Twitter really helped. Like it was easy to kind of screen that stuff on Facebook and Instagram for the most part. I didn't feel jealous of everybody seeing it earlier or anything like that. But I think it took away from the experience of yesterday as a whole, as a community. That was what I didn't like about it. I felt that through no fault of my own, I was a week late to a party that had started last Monday. And when I thought we'd all be excited and we'd all be chatting about it, it was kind of all hat to a couple of people that we talked to on an almost daily basis at this point. It kind of felt like we were playing catch up, which was it kind of just dampened it a little bit for me.
Yeah. So talk me through your cinema experience.
My cinema experience was an absolute joy in terms of the fact that I was telling you, I think in the last episode, our clan episode, that I went to a brand new cinema about 15 minutes, 20 minutes down the road from me. It's an Omniplex. I walked in. There was nobody in the queue. I was the first in the screening. The seating was unbelievable. I had these big leather recliners. I had the perfect seat because I booked it right in the middle.
Nice.
It was cool. Yesterday was one of the
hottest. Middle or back?
Yeah. Yesterday was one of the hottest days in Ireland. It was about 33 degrees when I went into the cinema. It was crazy hot.
And that's 33 degrees Celsius, everybody.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize, and this is an actual thing, right? The heat here is worse than the heat in other parts of the world. So if it's 30 degrees Celsius here, that's like a harder heat than 30 degrees in Australia or fucking California.
Yeah.
And my brother is back from Sydney right now, and he finds this heat unbearable.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is
and
worse.
We're just not built for it, man. We're not built for it.
We're not built for it, but it's something to do with the latitude or something. Like it literally hits us harder than
Yeah.
it does in other parts of the world. Anyway, go on.
And I got my Maltesers, I got my popcorn, I got my large Coca-Cola, I sat in my chair, it was nice and air conditioned, and people started to kind of trickle in. Now, I went to the 2:30 p.m. showing on a Friday, so a lot of people are still in work. There was no kids there, there was no teenagers there. It was like 20 people max, and they were all kind of like early to mid-20s into their 50s, I'd say. So right kind of in our age demographic, kind of give or take 10, 15 years. And it was a lovely experience sitting down to watch it. Yeah, I had no issues at all. It was really nice. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I was much the same, to be honest. I went to the Odeon in Blanchardstown. I was feeling trepidation that, you know, there'd be people on their phone or people talking, and no, it was lovely, and it was packed, and there was people there with Superman. There was like a few young people there wearing Superman hats. There was a couple of people wearing Superman t-shirts. Myself and Saoirse were both wearing Superman t-shirts. She actually asked me at the start of the day, "Oh, do you have a t-shirt I can wear?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, if you want." Like, so we were both there, and we were getting the looks and the people pointing and all this kind of stuff. She was wearing a Lois and Clark Superman t-shirt, so we were representing that way, and I was wearing the Max Fleischer one. So yeah, it was lovely, and I did. I did get a popcorn bucket. I caved.
No, they didn't have them in my Omniplex, I'm afraid.
It's just kind of a blue one. It's the logo, but it's blue. And but what I'm a lot more excited about was I got the collector's cup.
Yes.
They have a big cup, and it's basically Superman's torso with a cape coming off,
that's
and
cool.
it's really, really lovely. So I got that as well. So that was that. Now talk to me. Here's the big question. Hit me with it, Alan.
So I came out of the screening and I was thinking about it for a long time. And as I mentioned earlier, we have guests over. Stacey has cousins over from the States. And I came home and I walked in the door and they were like, well, how was Superman? What do you think of Superman? Because I was slightly rude. I wasn't here for the first hour that they were here because I went to see Superman. And
And by the way, just before you start, I should say that we have both seen the film one time.
One time.
It is 7:00 in the morning, like hours after we've seen the film, and we're both very raw, and these are like our initial reactions. These are subject to change,
and we have no idea what each other thinks. Zero. We have not discussed this in any way, shape or form. And I came home and I was thinking about it all day and all evening. I was kind of processing it as the day went on. And then did you ever see, obviously you've seen Star Trek Generations, and there's a scene in Star Trek Generations where Data gets...
Is that the one? Is that the one where they have the pod race?
No, Star Trek, not Star Wars. You always make that mistake, Rob.
Hang on, is that the one with the Cylons and the guy, and he's lusting after the woman in the red dress?
No,
that's
that Battlestar Galactica.
Of course, I've seen fucking Star Trek Generations, man. What the hell?
You know the scene. You know the scene where Data gets the emotion chip, and they go into 10 forward, and Guinan gives him the drink, and he makes the face, and Geordi was like, "Well, what do you think about it?" And he's like, I can't put it into words because I've never experienced this before. And Guinan was like, well, it looks like he hates it. And he's like, yes, that's it. I hated it. That's how I feel about the movie. I really didn't like it. I'm so sorry. I've been thinking about it and processing it over hours. I really didn't like I really didn't like the film. I have a number of issues with it. Yeah, and it literally took me all day to process that information because I was kind of shell shocked coming out of it. I literally couldn't compute it or put it into words exactly what I didn't like about it. But I do have a lot of issues with it, and unfortunately, it's not what I wanted to feel coming out of it, and it's not what I was expecting either. I thought I would be a lot more positive in relation to it. What about yourself?
Yeah, and how did other people feel coming out? Would you say?
There was no real. There was 3 or 4 guys about 5 or 6 rows down from me, and they seemed to absolutely love it. They were full of enthusiasm. They were talking about all the different elements that they liked, and they were going through kind of all the kind of character moments in it and all that kind of stuff. There was nothing out of anybody else. It was a very quiet screening. There was no laughing. There was no kind of post-match analysis in the cinema while the credits. Everybody was waiting to see the two. There's two kind of post-credit scenes, a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene, and everybody was waiting. There was no real conversation while that was going on. So I honestly don't know. But again, 20 people in a cinema that probably sits, I don't know, well over 100, maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to judge it it's hard to judge it on a screening like that compared to maybe seeing it on opening night, you know.
Yeah. And before we get like really into it, like, would you say there's one thing that you could well, without spoiling anything, is there one thing you can kind of point to that you didn't rub you the right way?
Yeah. The one thing I really didn't like about it was that I felt like I was playing catch up from the start. It felt like I had gone in to see the third film in a trilogy of Superman films without seeing the first two. It felt like I had walked in and to my sitting room and I was watching, episode 4 or 5 of a TV show where I hadn't seen the first 3 or 4 episodes. And normally that's okay. I know we don't need an origin story every single time, but I felt a huge disconnect between me and the characters as a result of that throughout the film. That throughout the entirety of the film, I felt like I was playing catch up. A lot of things were going on throughout the film that I didn't really care about because I had no context. I don't know who Mr. Terrific is. I have no background with that character whatsoever. I'm sure a lot of the cinema-going public won't have any background with Mr. Terrific. So I didn't care about Mr. Terrific. I have no context about Superman or Clark Kent's relationship, Clark Kent's relationship with Lois Lane. Like I do in general, in the general fandom, I know, of how they met and fell in love in the comics and in other TV shows, but not this version. So I don't really care about their relationship when I have nothing to contextualize it. And I thought a lot of characters were just severely underdeveloped throughout. I didn't know why a lot of people were even in this film. I really felt disconnected from it. Yeah. Okay. What about you?
Yeah. So look, I was really anxious and trepidatious like all week, to be honest. I saw a couple of reactions. I saw all the people on Twitter going, "Oh my god, amazing, great, whatever." These people that get invited to these advanced press screenings and stuff in America, they all sound the exact same on Twitter. They all have the exact same kind of like, it's a great new film and it's full of laughs and full of heart, and they write the exact same reaction, and it always feels bland and generic and beige. And every time you read it, you're like, I'm suspicious of this. Yes. And I don't like saying that people are paid for reviews or anything like that, but I feel like some of those guys are cherry picked because Warner Brothers or Disney or whoever know how they're going to react. You know that kind of way?
Yeah, and there's some people. So there is some people who just are overtly positive about everything because they're in that kind of circle as well. Yeah, they're in that circle. They can invite like, everything.
I don't put. I've mentioned before, I have a lot of respect for film critics. I think that is a very valid vocation. I think it's important to listen to them. Yeah. A lot of these guys now aren't really film critics. They're like entertainment journalists, which is a totally different thing. They're essentially just me given free reign to go to movies and review them. They're not people who have like, degrees in film or anything like that. They're just dopes basically. Yeah. So when I saw those, I was like, I can't take these seriously. And there's been a bunch of these before. Black Adam, people liked that. Like fucking Morbius. Grace Randolph liked Morbius. Look it up, everybody. So there's a lot of stuff like that where you're like, I can't trust these people, And then the Irish Times, Donald Clark, who I really, really do trust, and I think he's arguably Ireland's best film critic. He gave the film 2 stars, and he said it was annoying and it was overstuffed. And, and there was too much going on and it didn't work. Empire famously gave it a 2-star review. A couple of very big Superman fans, I read their reactions and they were like, I really wanted to like this, but I came out feeling empty and I didn't really feel anything. And I'm sorry, if you're one of these people who, your own reaction is all that matters and you can read this stuff and it doesn't mean anything, that's fine. You know, that good for you. Like, this stuff does color my opinion of things going in, and it does make me feel like dread going into something. And I did see, obviously, there was a lot of positivity around it as well, but like, I was kind of like, when we were going into it, I was like, oh God, I don't know now. And Saoirse asked me, we were driving there, and she was like, are we excited? And I was like, no, not really. I'm actually just feeling anxious. I'm like, there's like a huge weight in my chest. So like, I went in kind of, not low expectations, but lower than they had been. And I would say, like, you know, probably, you know, minutes in, I was like, oh God, I don't think this is going to work. I'm really feeling like this, you know, the tone maybe is wrong, or the jokes aren't landing. And what did you feel about the tone in general?
I didn't mind it. It was very James Gunn, and it was kind of what I was expecting. But a huge issue I had was for the first 15 minutes, I felt like I had seen all of this. Like, I pretty much had a media blackout when it came to this film. I watched the first trailer and I watched nothing else. And for the first 15 minutes, it was all stuff I had already seen. In terms, even by just seeing that trailer, I had seen, like, that entire sequence was the opening for the trailer. So I had already seen the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. And 15 minutes in, I was like, can I see something that I haven't seen already? That would be great, because I've seen all this. And I'm bored because I've seen it all.
But tonally though, like, you know, the kind of the sort of wacky feel of the movie.
I didn't mind that too much, because I was kind of expecting that going in, knowing what James Gunn brought to these kind of films. It was a little bit too much like The Flash for me, to be honest, in terms of some of the sequences and stuff. That I was just like,
I was reminded of The Flash, definitely. Like, you know, the sort of the wacky feel, and the kind of like the sort of, and I say this, you know, with respect to the kind of B-movie feel of a lot of it. Like, you know, the bits where he's like getting sick and he's pulling stuff off his face, and like it reminded, like, it felt like James Gunn's older sort of trauma stuff. So anyway, to get back to what I was saying, I was, you know, 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I don't know. And the audience was the same. There was jokes that were not landing. Yeah. The movie was moving at like a lightning pace. Yeah. And I really was feeling like, oh God. And like you said, there's a lot of stuff in the trailer that is just beat for beat, you know. And then 40 minutes in, I was like, fuck, this is brilliant. And I was totally sold. I really bought into it. Every time the movie slowed down, I was like, oh, I can breathe now. And that really did the heavy lifting. The first scene where it's Lois and Clark talking to each other, I was like, oh God, finally we've done it. Finally it works. Yeah. And it totally sold me. All the stuff about the Justice League, I totally disagree with you with. I felt like they were just, they were exactly as I predicted they'd be. They were side characters to sell action figures, and they were a bit of fun. Mr. Terrific, I don't know how you can say, like, nobody has any context for him. Nobody knows who he is. But what I mean, he was like the MVP of the movie, lads. I was so worried about this. Like, a full half an hour in, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. And, you know, about 40 minutes in, I was like, oh, no, they've got me now. They've absolutely got me. And by the end of the movie, like, my face was like stained with, you know, smiles and tears. And we were coming out of the movie. Do you know what I saw for the first time ever coming out of a Superman movie in my lifetime?
What was that?
From other people.
Cool.
Joy.
Really?
Joy, excitement. Like, people like, young people, old people patting each other in the back going, Jesus, that was great, you know, and whistling the fucking John Williams theme tune, pointing at our t-shirts like, oh, look at that, oh, hey. Like, there was a palpable sense of joy leaving the film.
That's excellent. You know,
and like, I absolutely, I was watching it going, this is not going to be for everybody. It's moving at a lightning pace. It has a really campy, goofy, wacky tone. You know, but I felt all the emotion worked. All of it. Absolutely all of it worked. I did not feel at all that I was jumping into... And I'd read that, you know, I felt like it's a second movie in a trilogy and there should have been a first movie for...
Well, other people have said that as well, have they?
Other people have said that. Other people have said everything you've said. Like, other people have said that. But I felt an overwhelming... But by the end of the movie, it was disarmed. And I will say that's exactly how I felt in Guardians 2 and Guardians 3. I started the movie going, know about this. Like, this isn't quite working, and there's a lot of people shouting at each other, and it's a very, it's just irreverent and anarchic. And it did remind me of The Flash. It absolutely reminded me of Flash. Do you know what the difference between this and The Flash is? James Gunn's a good director. And, like the whole, like, it's a very, very specific tone he was going for, but I think he absolutely nailed it in a way that Andy Muschietti didn't. And I almost feel like, James Gunn may have been giving him notes and your man was interpreting them badly, and that's why The Flash ended up the way it did. Like, whereas this felt like, this really felt like a director's movie. It felt like it was truly James Gunn style throughout, in a really, really good way. Like, it felt like he really, really owned the film and brought it to life. And that, the more I think about it, the more I love it, I have to say.
Well, that's great. That's and I'm like, thrilled. I'm thrilled for anybody who came out of it and was just like, no, that. You're not. I am. I'm genuinely happy for anybody who came out and was filled with joy watching it. I didn't feel that connection to it. And
this isn't one of those, you're going to have people saying, oh, it's copium and he wanted to like it. I went in going, oh God, I'm really not going to like this.
If anything, I was the more positive going in, I think.
I know you were, and that's why I think we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Look, you go on about James Gunn and the director. I found it to be a very, like, cinematography wise, nothing really stood out to me or blew me away in the film. I don't remember, there's no shots that I remember coming out going, oh my God, that was amazing. I mean,
the single shot where during the action scene where he's swooping up and it like lands on the shield and then pans up to it, like, I thought towards the end where his face is all like bruised and after being punched, we can't get into spoilers, but that blew me away.
Some of the flying sequences.
This is the moment that I was waiting for in the trailers that I didn't get.
Some of the flying sequences in relation to the kaiju battle, I thought were quite impressive. When you got to see the dynamics of him flying kind of through the flames and whipping around and that kind of stuff. But overall, I kind of felt that it was a little bit flat, almost like it was kind of shot for TV, like a TV episode that had a huge budget or something like that. I just didn't like. There's some amazing shots in Man of Steel, and there's some decent shots in even in Superman Returns, even though there's no use of CGI when it comes to the Superman there. There was nothing really in this that I came away going, wow, that was an amazing shot. I really enjoyed that, or that was beautifully done. And I really thought where it fell down for me was in the character moments. I thought we skipped a lot of the context that I would have liked to have seen.
But do you not think?
Why is Perry White in the film, or Cat Grant, or?
But why does that matter?
Because they're there.
Because you're a Superman fan, you expect to see more of them. It doesn't actually matter in the text of this film.
I don't see the point in sprinkling in characters and not doing anything with them. It was just a waste. I don't understand why.
But why? Well, in this particular text, that has, like, if you're coming to this brand new without any context of Superman, why does it matter that they're not really in it?
In one of the trailers, you see a shot where Lois Lane is driving the ship, and these characters are all in there, and I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing this. I'm looking forward to seeing this dynamic of the relationships between this Perry, this Jimmy. Do
you see my point though? You're coming to this as a Superman fan, expecting to like.
Yeah, but a lot of people are.
It has no bearing on the text of this film in and of itself. You're just coming to that with expectations, expecting a certain thing.
Yeah, I am. I'm expecting to see some character relationships in the characters that I know are going to be on screen for 2 hours, and there was nothing. I mean, Perry White had nothing to do. I think he made one joke towards the end of the film, which was okay.
But do you see my point though?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do see your point. But
that's not really valid for this film in and of itself. Well, that's just you as a Superman fan.
I think if you cast a load of actors in parts and advertise them and use them heavily in the promotion for the film, and then they have fuck all to do in that film when they're on screen, I think it's a genuine criticism.
I think you're looking at marketing and expectations as a Superman fan rather than the actual film itself, and that's something I completely understand why you're doing that, but I don't see it as being.
So you were.
I agree, by the way.
You were
I don't
in no way disappointed with like Perry or Cat or Steve Lombard or Ron Thorpe didn't even have any lines in the film.
Ron Troop didn't have any lines.
Sorry.
I would say I got more out of the Daily Planet staff and the Daily Planet scenes in this than any Superman movie that's come out in my lifetime. Like, and yes, I absolutely agree. Perry White had 2 lines in this. I said multiple times, by the way, I don't think Wendell Pierce is going to have a lot of stuff in this film, and I was right.
Yeah.
yes, they used him in the marketing. Whatever, man. They used Angel in the marketing for X-Men: The Last Stand, and he had nothing to do in that film. Marketing and the film are 2 different things, you know. As a Superman fan, would I have liked to see more Perry White? Absolutely, yes, I would. You know, but in and of this film as itself, did I feel like he was wasted? Not really. Like, if if this was a film I was coming in blind to and I had no context for Superman, I wouldn't be thinking, why didn't they do more with that cigar guy? You know?
Yeah.
Like, I totally see your point, but also, the sky's the limit. They can do anything with him. Like, they could do way more with him. They're talking about a Jimmy Olsen TV show now.
Of course they are.
Sign me the fuck up. I will absolutely watch that. I thought Steve Lombard was great in it. He actually had a couple of memorable scenes.
Film. He had like 2 jokes.
No, he had a bunch of lines. And by the way, the and this is me coming to it as a Superman fan. All the stuff in the Daily Planet, the dialogue was really sharp. It was really tight, and they actually felt like they were journalists. And like Steve Lombard was slagging him about the way he was writing his story. It felt real. It felt lived in. I didn't need to be fed this context of like,
to be fair,
and here's how they met, and here's how they do.
To be fair,
like it was,
the bar has been set fairly low by recent Superman movies in terms of any of the Daily Planet stuff. I mean, it's practically non-existent in Superman Returns or Man of Steel. It's very minimal stuff. How did you feel about the like just the lack of Clark Kent in this thing at all?
Again, you're coming to, anyway, sorry.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
if you're coming to a Superman movie, I think you expect Clark Kent for more than one scene.
In the newsroom. I mean, I did think that, yeah, they could have used more of it, but like there was so much. I mean, we should talk about the actors now. There was so much of David Carnswell in this.
Yes.
And there was so much, he had so much charm and personality.
Totally
and do you
agree.
remember there was people got online saying, oh, he's just going to be a bland, one-dimensional, copy of Christopher Reeve? Incorrect.
Right.
Like he had personality bursting out of him throughout the entire film. So I didn't feel like we were shortchanged of anything. Like, most of the reason you want to see Clark Kent in those other Superman movies is because it's the only reason it's the only time you can see him have any kind of like life. And other than that, he's just kind of staring vacuously into space like a dog. Like, in Superman Returns and Man of Steel, he kind of has nothing to do when he's Superman. And it's only fun when he's Clark Kent. In this, it was fun throughout. So I didn't mourn his loss. And the one scene that he was in did a lot of heavy lifting. I believed that he was this, seasoned reporter and stuff like that.
It was just, I see what you're saying in terms of Superman. He's more of a grounded character. He's more of a fully developed character than is in a lot of other films.
Fucking personality he should have had.
Absolutely,
in the
and I also agree in terms of the actors in this movie. I think they're absolutely superb. I think Rachel Brosnahan is a fantastic Lois Lane. I think David Cornsworth.
There's no weak link in this cast.
I think they are phenomenal. I really do. It's the material that I just did not connect with at all for me, and a lot of the stuff maybe and. I would have thought that my expectations were low enough going in. I kind of knew what I was expecting, but I was open to a lot of unexpected, really. But I have to say, I just like you said earlier on.
What did you think about Nicholas Hoult?
I thought he was quite good. I didn't think he was that menacing in it, to be honest with you. I think they might have made. I celebrated the marketing previously. And now I think that, he's such a nice guy and they get on so well and they're all buddies that it kind of took away from him as a character in the film. Yes, he's evil, but he kind of starts off at like a 9 and there's not much space for him to go after that, I didn't think. But
he did.
Yeah, he's better than Kevin Spacey. He's better than Jesse Eisenberg. I liked this is the comic book Lex Luthor. This is the all-star Superman Lex Luthor. I loved all that.
Absolutely.
I would have liked just a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not character development, I suppose. Just a little bit more nuance with it. But yeah, he's superb. They're all superb. I cannot fault any of the actors in this movie. I like Nathan Fillion.
Talking about nuance, can we just stay on specific people for a sec? Talking about nuance, like Nicholas Hoult, some of the specific things that, like, even the way he held himself in that opening scene, like, and you can see how jacked he is under that suit. He's clearly been like working out. He like just looked like Lex Luthor. And then there's bits where he's really palling around with, you know, his crowd of people in Luthor Corp, and like he you know, he's giving a guy a little massage and he's patting him on the back. Oh, way to go, buddy, and all this. And you're kind of like, this doesn't feel right. And then you realize, oh, they're his friends, but on his terms. You know, it's like they're his friends as long as they do exactly what he says, and they do it the way he wants. And he's like, it's pretty on the nose, but like he's like this conductor, and he's conducting them like an orchestra, and they're all a bunch of gamers, and it's like I just loved what they were doing with it. And he was real like kind of Andrew Tate vibes. Andrew Tate mixed with kind of Elon Musk,
yes,
and then there's obviously other people mixed in there too. But like I no notes. I thought he was spectacular. And like there was a bit where he was kind of hunched over, and like his eyebrows were flared, and they had them kind of like however they had his eyebrows kind of brushed or whatever. I was like, oh man, it looked like he'd walked off the pages of All-Star Superman.
Yes.
And you know, I thought he was, and that speech he had at the end, where the veins in his head were like bursting. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted from Nicholas Hoult. He is perfect in this role. They've finally, once and for all, gotten Lex Luthor right, and it's spectacular. And everybody's saying the same thing. He's fucking brilliant in this film. Loved it.
Yep, I think all the actors are fantastic. I think they all put in great performances. I think some of them could easily be the best versions of these, the best actors to play these parts.
What did you think of Rachel Brosnahan?
I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was brilliant. I did not. There was no moment in that film that I did not believe that she was just Lois Lane. You know, even the way she holds herself when she's sitting down interviewing Superman in the apartment in Clark, the way she holds herself, the way she sits, the way she questions him, absolutely 10 out of 10. No, I have no notes for Rachel Brosnahan. I have no notes for David Corenswet. Like I said earlier, I even think
how did you feel about their chemistry?
I thought it was the best chemistry. Like compared to what? Compared to Brandon Routh and
Kate Bosworth.
Kate Bosworth, which was like, I mean, they may as well just have had cardboard cutouts there. It was pretty much the same with Man of Steel, to be honest. There was nothing there. This is the most chemistry I've seen since Tom Welling and Erica Jorans, or Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher back in the day. It was top marks, 100%. I cannot fault the acting. I think the casting in this film is by far its strongest point.
You mentioned you didn't really care about Mr. Terrific. Tell me about him.
I'm not saying I didn't care. Like the Justice Gang, as they're called in the movie, I thought, you know, I was open to what it was. I know people were worried that it was going to be overstuffed. I had a lot of time for character. I thought Nathan Fillion was great as Guy Gardner. The guy who plays, I don't know the actor's name, who plays Mr. Terrific, the character was fine. I just felt like there was no context. There was no introduction to this person. Who is this guy? Where
Like, they introduced him. I don't.
But
they introduced
what's
him
his
as
backstory?
characters.
Who is he?
We don't need to know his backstory. Like, this to me felt like a new run of comics. It felt like, you know, who's that? Like Philip Kennedy Johnson. You jump in, you know the broad strokes. You know Clark Kent is Superman. You know he came from Krypton. You know who Lois Lane is. You know. Usually in the comics they're usually married now. We don't need that context anymore. It's and here's a new superhero. You know, they do that all the time. We're used to that, and I think audiences are used to that by now as well.
I don't know,
like
man.
You don't like they do that in Marvel stuff all the time, man. They like, you know, a new hero will just pop up. You don't need to explain who they are every single time.
But what hero pops up with absolutely no background or no context whatsoever in a Marvel movie? Like who? Like a lot of those characters have entire films setting up who they are, and I understand what you're saying. You walk into a comic book shop, you literally pick up a Superman comic, and you jump in, and that's where you're in that run. I totally get that. I don't know if that works in a film. It works.
Well, it worked for me, and I think it worked for the audience. And like, you know, perfect example, the death of Superman. Who the fuck is Bloodwind? I still don't know who he is. I pick up the comic and I'm like, oh, who cool. This guy's got a big black cape, and he's got a white suit, and he's doing some stuff, and he's in a relationship with this lady. Got it. Good. Let's move on. You know?
But like, if I don't know what Mr. Terrific can do, then can he not just do anything? Like if they're panicking,
explain what he can do throughout the movie.
If they're in a situation where we won't get into spoilers, but say that there is a scene where there's a portal and it's closing and they have to get through it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't on the edge of my seat for that because I didn't know what this guy could do. So I don't know what the rules of the game are. Do you know what I mean?
But they explain what he can do. He has the T-spheres.
He has balls.
They do the thing.
That shoot the
He's
lasers.
balls.
But I don't know what the balls.
They
I
have
don't know
balls
what
that
his
shoot
balls
lasers.
do, Rob. I don't know what his balls do.
Well, maybe you can hold them for a while
Maybe.
and have a look at them. Talk to me about Guy Gardner.
Thought he was great.
Because everybody was worried about him going into the movie.
He's Guy Gardner. He's Guy Gardner from the comic books. I didn't find him annoying. I didn't find him obnoxious in a way that he wasn't meant to be obnoxious. I thought he was fine. Out of the three, the only one that I thought was very bland was Hawkgirl. To be honest, I didn't think she did.
Yeah, she didn't have a lot.
She didn't have a lot to do. She had nothing interesting to say. Again, no context to who she was or anything like that in terms of this film. I don't know why she was there. To be honest.
If this was like Star Wars and she was a member of the Jedi Council and she had horns coming out of her head or whatever, like, oh, how did she get those horns?
Yeah, but there's nothing. She's just this girl who's there, who flies and screams a lot. There's nothing. I don't know her name. I don't know where she comes from. I know nothing about her at all.
Why does that affect your enjoyment of the film, though?
I don't know. I think it's literally just the fact that I felt very disconnected from it throughout the entirety of the film. I felt.
But she doesn't have an emotional arc in the film that you need to feel connected to, though. She's just
there for the sake of it. But there's a lot of characters that I found were just there. They were just standing around in the background. And
okay, talk to me about the main emotional arcs of the film. How did you feel about like Superman's arc in the film?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It took me a while again.
We should probably do a spoiler warning here.
Yeah.
So
spoiler warning.
Okay,
this.
So
we'll put
from this point on
in the description anyway.
Yeah, from this point on, we're talking spoilers.
Yeah, I thought it was good. He's just a guy trying to do the right thing, and he doesn't care about the consequences on himself or the political consequences. It's very black and white to the Superman. He just wants to save people, and he doesn't care about what the consequences. He doesn't care about borders. He doesn't care about political unrest. If people are in danger or people are going to hurt, he wants to step in. And there's a certain, that's not the world even in this film, this comic book film. That's not the world that he lives in. There's so much, pushback in relation to that he's just not expecting. And I liked all that. I loved all that stuff. I thought it was. Go on.
How did you find where he ended up?
Where he ended up in terms of
in terms of like the final speech he has with Lex about being human.
Yeah, it was great. There's a speech at the end where he's speaking to Lex and he's just explaining that he's not this omnipresent God who's there to cause harm. He's just a guy trying to do his job as best as he can, and he's not infallible, and he makes mistakes, and he loves people, and he has people he cares about, and it's all solid stuff. It's all but that didn't change very much from the very start. It's just him trying to explain to Lex exactly who he is, and you're hoping that you'll see a crack in Lex's armor where he sees the mistake, the error of his ways, but he doesn't, because he's just such a megalomaniac and such a narcissist that he can't see it.
I would make just to say on Superman for a sec, I would make the point that it did change, because we see the crucial moment, and I take your point, but we see the crucial point where he goes back to the Kents, and Jonathan has that moment with him where he basically says Anthony Desiato's catchphrase, "It's about what you do, it's about action," and I just thought all that was really, really lovely, man. Like the Kents are basically in one scene of this, and it was such a powerhouse of a scene. It just hit me so hard,
Yeah.
And I thought the journey he went through was really, really nice. No, it's not like it's not Shakespeare. Like it's stuff they've done in other Superman stuff. But
to be fair,
really worked. And I thought for people who don't like Superman, this is like a really good mission statement of here's who he is and why he's interesting in a way that like the other films did not do. Any of the films, I don't think any of the, even the Chris, like throughout the film, I was like, oh, this is what Superman 4 was trying to do, and it's doing it well here. It's doing it right. You've got Lex Luthor, manipulating political events. Superman is trying to take more of a role in,
it's a land scam
fixing
again, though.
the world's problems, and people are blaming him for it. The difference is they're actually pulling it off here. They've got the special effects, they've got the performances, they've got everything. Everything is working in this film the way Christopher Reeve envisioned it would in that one, and it comes to a perfect crescendo then in that moment with Lex. I thought the arc was really, really nice. And similarly, the love story with Lois, I was like, I had all the context I need in that scene where they're in the apartment, and he's like, oh yeah, we've been going out for 3 months. They've known each other for a couple of years.
He's been Superman for 3 years at this
point.
point. Yeah, we get that at the start. He's been Superman for 3 years at the start of the movie.
I will agree. I thought the text, the opening crawl thing they did was that felt more like we need. That too, but also it felt more like we need to set up the DC universe than we need to set up this movie.
Yeah.
Like it was like 3 decades ago, the first sign of metahumans was like that doesn't actually play into this.
I think it was 3 centuries ago, wasn't it? 3 centuries ago, the first.
Maybe it was, and then 3 decades ago, Superman arrived, and that felt a bit. I honestly, you probably could have started the movie without that.
100%.
I don't know. No, as in you literally could start this movie without that context, and it would still work. I think. I don't think it needed it.
Unless you're making a Star Wars movie, I think the opening text at the start of a movie is just lazy. I've never liked it. I didn't like it in Superman Returns either. I don't need it. It doesn't.
The great thing about the way they do it in Star Wars, or at least the way they used to do it in Star Wars, is they're throwing stuff at you that isn't like entirely relevant as well. It just sets the feel of the thing, whereas this is actually relevant information. Well, somewhat relevant information. But I just didn't feel like it was that needed.
Did you not feel that the second act of the movie kind of grounded to a halt once he was brought into the pocket dimension?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just thought all that stuff was so in, and it was like, we've seen so many superhero movies now where, they're throwing shit at the wall and there's CGI every second and it's whatever. But every second they were introducing this new idea. It was like, oh, Lex has monkeys, typing out these tweets and, and they're being brainwashed and it's a pocket dimension and all this stuff. They were just throwing stuff at you. And it felt like All-Star Superman. It was just like non-stop kind of crazy Silver Age ideas every single second. And, to his credit, I slagged him for it in advance. I thought the CGI in this was pretty good. There was moments where it wasn't perfect, but I thought it was generally I thought it was good. And like when he falls in the river and it's this kind of crazy Minecraft thing where there's pixels flying out of it, and the baby was like, talking about reminding us of the Flash. Talking about reminding us of the Flash, that scene with the babies in the Flash was aggravating. Whereas in this, it's a similar thing. It's just like a baby in jeopardy, but you feel it, and you it felt a lot more genuine and earned.
I have to disagree.
I'm sure you do.
I think it was an abomination in the Flash. This is better than that. But the entire sequence with the river and the CGI alien baby and trying to hold him up and that, I was completely I was like, what? I'm just watching a cartoon here. I completely disengaged from that. Yeah. I didn't think that was that didn't get me at all. I didn't feel any jeopardy there. I just wasn't connected to that in any way, shape, or form. That entire story with Metamorpho and the baby in the cage and stuff, it didn't do anything for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now, I have to... We're obviously both comic book fans.
Yes.
We have a degree of context to this. Saoirse hasn't a fucking clue who Metamorpho is, right? And she was on the edge of her seat throughout that whole bit.
Well, that's good. That's great. Again, that's great to hear.
She was really like, ooh! Like she, so, and she, I often say this, she is my litmus test of like, this is a normal person who has like a degree of context for all this, but is basically uninitiated, you know? Yes. And she was like, oh my God. So, I thought that whole scene was great, man. I will accept it was very crashy bashy, but and the other thing I liked about that scene as well is you had this whole thing with Mr. Terrific and Lois at the kind of aperture of the portal, and it was like, it was kind of closing in on them, and there was tension going on there while this thing was going on as well. So it was like, it wasn't like Superman just had to get out of this and then the scene was over. There was other stuff going on in it. And going back to what I was saying before about like the kind of B-movie feel, I liked that for a large portion of this, it was actually a relatively small story, even though the scale felt big. Yes. It was like, Superman has been wrongly imprisoned and we have to break him out of jail. That's like an episode of Lois and Clark.
Yeah, no, and
which I got huge Lois and Clark vibes off this film.
Agree with that. Talk to me about the L's. Talk to me about Jor-El and Mara.
Oh no, you talk to me about this first.
It's an aspect of the film that I thought was quite good, to be honest with you.
Oh right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I actually did. I actually thought it was a more interesting way to go. I'm kind of sick of, the Jesus God allegory, and Jor-El is this perfect guy on this other world,
100%
just this amazing scientist who was infallible and tried to warn his planet. Jor-El is played by Bradley Cooper here. We only see him in hologram form, and the entire context of it is that Superman has grown up listening to one half of the message that they sent in the ship because the ship was damaged on the journey. And when Lex Luthor breaks into the Fortress of Solitude, he basically repairs the message, and we hear the second half of the message, which is about, look, be the best that you can be, but if they don't do what you want to do, conquer them and rule over them. And that's why the people of Metropolis, or a portion of the people of Metropolis, turn against Superman. And obviously Lex Luthor uses that to blacken his name and to stoke paranoia and fear and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was all very interesting. I thought it was a very interesting way to go. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd like to see where that goes in terms of the sequel. I'd like to know what the ramifications of that are. And I absolutely thought that the scene at the end of the movie, so at the very beginning, Superman is injured and the Superman robots play the message for Superman because it calms him down and it kind of centers him. And at the end, they do the exact same thing, except it's like family videos of the Kents and Superman on the farm and opening presents Christmas morning. I loved all that. Yeah. I have to say, I thought that was absolutely superb.
And that was the bit, Saoirse was actually crying at that bit because she's a child of adoption and stuff like, so that was actually a really powerful moment for her. I really like that for all the reasons you said. I'm sick of Space God. I'm sick of Space Jesus. I'm sick of all the Jesus allegories. Superman was created by 2 Jewish Canadians and has been co-opted by American Christians. It's bizarre. We don't need him to be Jesus in every movie. We've had a bunch of really, really good Jor-Els. We've had a bunch of like heavenly, space stads in the sky. We have done that really, really effectively. It's my favorite thing about Man of Steel, probably, is the Krypton stuff is done really, really well, and Russell Crowe is a really, really cool Jor-El and stuff. Obviously there's Marlon Brando as well. I was like, I'm okay with this. If this is going to be the big thing that people are divided about, I'm actually okay about this. What I would say though, my biggest problem with that whole side of things is, how does Supergirl work then? Because if there's this scrambled message and he doesn't know what the end of the message said, but then he has a cousin who presumably came to Earth when she was a teenager and like grew up on Krypton, and would that not ever come up in conversation that, oh yeah, no, you were sent here to rule, Kal-El? Like that bit I'm scratching my head at. Now there's an open road in front of us where they can explore all that, and I'm sure Mr. James Gunn, who has an answer for everything, will have an answer for that.
Yes, either
in a future film or just in a tweet.
I wouldn't be worried about that, to be honest. I wouldn't be concerned about that. I think
that was the only bit I was like, because what I was expecting, and I will say, by the way, I did find this movie quite predictable in a lot of ways. Like I did predict, obviously everyone predicted that Ultraman was going to be bizarre. I'm trying to keep my voice down in case one of my neighbors wants to see the movie. Everyone predicted that Ultraman was going to turn out to be Bizarro, and I heard a couple of people even say that.
Now, to be fair,
yeah, but this is chapter 1.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get back to that. Everyone predicted that, and a couple of people even made the point that I will be disappointed if it turns out to be that, and like my expectations aren't subverted, And then when the movie kind of kicked off, I was like, okay, so this is going to be Lex goes to the fortress and he takes the message and then he scrambles it a bit and makes fake news off the end of it, sort of like he did in Superman Birthright. Superman Birthright was all over this movie, man, in a better way than Man of Steel. And then I thought the final revelation would be that Clark uncovers the actual end of the message, and
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
I'm glad they didn't do that, but introducing Supergirl, which again felt like, oh, here's the DC universe, everybody. Like the film didn't need it. I would say it was a fun little scene, and I'm excited to see that movie. But I was like, the film didn't need it, and it also just left me confused. And not as a Superman fan, but like in the text of this film, it doesn't make sense. Like, and it makes the film less of a standalone piece, because you're left going, how does that work? Who's she and how does that work? That was probably my biggest problem with the film. I've no issue with, and I would also say, if we're gonna do evil Krypton, and which they did in My Adventures with Superman as well, and I thought it worked really well there as well. But if you're gonna do that, the bit where Lara was like, "Oh yeah, and you should take lots of wives and spread your seed and all that," it was like, they were playing that for laughs. I was like, this is maybe a moment that you don't play for laughs.
Yeah,
was how I felt watching that. Now maybe it was the thing where they were like, they were trying to leave it open that it might be fake news, but then like a scene later, Lex is like, no, it's real. So I was like, maybe don't play that bit for laughs.
And maybe it's the case that it's not evil Krypton. Maybe it's just the case that Drell and Lara are dicks. Like it could be the case that that's not the Krypton philosophy, but they're just those people who are, just do what you need to do to make sure that the family name continues
100%.
on. But I'm interested to know, to be fair, I am very interested to know where that goes. And it might not go anywhere because, to be fair, at the end of the film, he's kind of resolved it in his own mind that, he's human. He says it to Lex, I'm as human as you are.
And I want to bring that up because when we did our John Byrne episode, I was like very heated and impassioned about how much I, having sat with it, I don't like John Byrne's attitude in that moment where he's like, it was Krypton that made me Superman, it was Earth that made me human. I feel like in this film it has a lot more nuance than it did in John Byrne's Man. John Byrne is saying, well, he should just be happy to be American and being American is better, and who cares about his culture before this. I didn't really feel, I felt like Gunn had a much more nuanced view of like, this is an immigrant, he's come to his new home, he doesn't really know much about his heritage, and then what he finds out frightens him, and not that he rejects it, but he's like, it doesn't make me less valid as a man, It's about what I do, it's about action, I just thought all of that was handled really, really well and really, really carefully, and it didn't undermine his heritage or it didn't feel like John Byrne to me. It felt a lot more respectful and nuanced of kind of the immigrant journey. I thought all that stuff was really, really well handled. And by the way, I went into this really, really on edge about the political allegories.
Mm-hmm.
This film is like ripped off the headlines.
It's like
like how did he predict it? Like it was insane how much it felt true to life. And again, I was like, maybe some of this might feel a bit trite given some of the circumstances we find ourselves in, but by and large I felt like it was handled well. And it was done well, and I really, really liked the whole thing with Baravia and Jarhanpur. I would have picked a better fake name for the country than Jarhanpur, to be honest. But
I agree.
I loved all that stuff. And going back to the tone, I liked kind of the silly, goofy, campy tone of a lot of the side characters in this. The Prime Minister of Baravia, he's just this ridiculous, like he felt like a character from Lois and Clark season 3.
He did, yeah. He was a goofy guy.
Just like he was a fucking goofy guy, man, and like ridiculous. But even the subtitles when he was talking had this like kind of goofy font, but I was like, this is working. Like I went into this going, I hope this is the Batman Forever of Superman movies. By that I mean I hope it's outrageous. I hope it's really colorful. I hope it's really wacky. I hope the core characters are taken very seriously, but I hope everyone else can just have fun. And I felt like that's exactly what we got. Like, but similarly, Batman Forever is not a film for everybody.
No, it's not.
I know a lot of people that can't get past the tone and that can't get past the pacing, the whatever. But I love that film, and this to me felt like all the kind of the Superman Lives and all the crazy stuff that felt like, oh, that would have been amazing to see. It's like, oh, now we're seeing it.
Yeah. To be fair, again, when it comes to the acting, when it comes to a lot of the elements like that you spoke to, they're not my major issues. My major issue is, for some reason, I just felt very disconnected from the entire thing. I just did not connect with it, and I can't. When I walked out, I was just disappointed. That's fair. And I find it strange because I didn't have any huge expectations going in. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to be the best Superman ever, and everything's riding on this, and if this is not good, I don't know what I'm going to do. But like, And a lot of the kind of the tentpole Superman stuff that I was really looking forward to aren't in it. Like, we didn't get Clark Kent turning into Superman. We didn't get a shirt rip. We didn't get...
Oh, yeah, we didn't get a shirt rip.
You know, we didn't get... I'd say, like, there is a lot of action in it, but is there any standout magical Superman moments, like, you know, him catching Lois at the helicopter? Do you think so?
The scene where he's fighting the Raptors, man, was iconic. It was absolutely class. It was like,
I don't think so.
It was like Max Fleischer meets. It was insane. It was like Max Fleischer on acid. I loved that. And again, like, you know, I'm so tired of mindless CGI. None of the CGI in this felt mindless. It was all like just carefully animated, and they were really going for something every time, I felt. And I was, you know, I saw it in IMAX, but I saw it on a relatively unremarkable IMAX.
Yeah. And
there was issues with the sound, and it didn't look massive. Like, I think it was probably past the bare minimum of what constitutes IMAX. That bit, I had a stupid shit-eating grin. That was when the movie had fully won me over, and I was like, wow. I thought that was incredible, and there was a bunch of really good super saves.
Do you think I don't think so, man. Again, there's a lot of action. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of action. Him fighting the kaiju and flying through the thing. But there's no part where
saving the squirrel.
Where I saved there's no part where I'm thinking back where I'm like, oh my god, that was just an incredible Superman save. That was an incredible Superman moment that will go down in the analogues of great Superman moments. There just wasn't. I found it was action heavy, but in terms of that magic, I didn't feel it. I just didn't.
I felt it in different ways. Like, it didn't have a big kind of Christopher Reeve moment where he flies in and everyone's cheering. Like, it was way more kind of like slam bang action.
Yeah.
And you know, I heard someone who didn't like the film was like, oh, he's kind of Dudley Do-Right in this film, the way he'll just get swatted away and he'll get his ass kicked.
He does get his ass kicked a lot, I have to say.
But man, do you know what? That's a different flavor, and I was kind of here for it. I was like, do you know what? What's the first thing everybody says about Superman when they don't like him?
He's too overpowered.
Yeah, right. Straight away, like, that is not an issue here. Like, he is kind of an underdog throughout a lot of this film.
Yeah, he is.
And I went in going, oh, this is going to be like the animated series, and he's just going to get like fucking flicked away like a peanut in every other scene. He's going to get whacked into buildings. It's going to be really, really boring. I was never bored. You know, I never found any of that stuff boring. And I just thought, you know, I still got the impression that he was Superman, he was grandiose, and he was very powerful. But like, it worked in a different way, I would say. And throughout the whole thing, and this was one of my main hopes going in. I was like, there's a lot of these franchise reboots where you watch the reboot and it's so different from the other versions.
Yes.
That it sort of disconnects you from the other versions. And I kind of got that with Nolan's Batman a bit. I was like, and I loved all those films, but you'd come away from Batman Begins going, oh, I kind of can't go back to the older films now because this feels so different that I'm sort of on a different wavelength.
Yeah.
I was watching this film going, oh, I can't wait to go back and watch Lois and Clark. I can't wait to read Triangle Era comics. Like, the vibe of this was so Triangle Era, it was ridiculous. Can't wait to read more Silver Age stuff. Man, this often felt like an episode of Superboy. Like, it just the cheesy, weird B-movie kind of strangeness of bits of it was like, this feels like an episode of Superboy with a massive budget. So yeah, can I suggest? Well, I'm not going to suggest anything. Can I offer a or a theory I have?
Sure.
I think this film's going to grow on you.
And I'm very much open to that. And I have been that guy numerous times where I've gone into something, I've sat down, it's not what I was expecting, and I walk out, and then I go back again, and it grows on me exponentially. And I am totally open to that. I could come back on here in a month's time, going, man, I've seen it 2 more times, and my, you know, it's now that I know what it is, and my eyes have opened to it, and it's grown on me a huge amount. That's absolutely could very well happen. I just really felt like I was playing catch up from the start. I really felt like I had walked into something and I was trying to run after it, trying to figure out what was going on and who these people were and what the context of this was, and I never felt that connection to it. You had that moment 40 minutes in where you're like, this is what this is. I'm here now. I'm in. I never got that. And like, even that's at the hour mark, without realizing it, I looked at my watch to see how much time was left in this film. I never do that, and I was shocked when I copped that I had done it. I was like, "What? How long is this?" And I was like, "Oh fuck!" I was like, "Right, I'm in trouble here." And I tried to stay positive throughout the rest, and all that stuff, like the stuff with Jarell and Lara. Again, I can't overemphasize the fact
on paper
the actors are fantastic. The performances are top notch. There's no notes. I loved Jimmy. I loved everything about it. A little bit iffy about the treatment of Eve Teschmacher, I have to be honest. It was a little bit misogynistic, I thought. The way she was,
I'll give you that.
She was dealt with.
Can I just on Jimmy and Tess and Eve and everything else?
Yeah.
Niall McGowan, friend of the show, he's the co-host of Batman podcast. He suggested that maybe there's this great series, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, from a couple of years ago. I think it's written by Matt Fraction, and it's kind of a comedy comic. It's really, really funny. It's really, really good. I think I suggested a while ago that we might do an episode on it. It's only like 6 issues, and it's great. But I think there's an issue in that where Jimmy casts a love spell and everyone was falling in love with him.
Yeah.
And Niall suggested that maybe that happened off screen and we don't know about it.
That would be,
and that
I have to say, that would be a lot of fun, because there is a scene.
I think that
there is a scene where there's 2 or 3 like really attractive women, and they're checking them out, and Lois is like, "What is going on?" And then Eve Teschmacher is an absolute smoke show, and she is all over Jimmy Olsen,
and he's just this little man. It's really funny.
I have to say, I did like that.
I didn't absolutely love Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy in this.
I thought he was great.
But I did like his kind of deadpan vibe, and I loved all that stuff that he's kind of just this unwitting ladies man and he doesn't really know why. I would love if they retroactively introduced that there's this love spell that we were never privy to. I think that'd be gas.
And that would work in the context of this universe. That would 100% work, to be fair. I have to say, I hate being in like that old SNL sketch. I hate being a Debbie Downer. The score didn't do much for me either, I have to say. There's only so many times I can listen to the same 4 beats from the fucking John Williams theme. Like, play the rest of the song, even if you want to do it in that style, but it's just the same notes again and again throughout it. And I listened to the soundtrack on the way home from the cinema, and I have to think it's probably the most underwhelming Superman soundtrack to date, I would imagine.
I agree. By the way, I like the basic idea of the deconstructed John Williams theme, and again, there was people whistling it on the way out, like which is great, and it's lovely to hear. I do agree that the score was a bit kind of like they had this one idea and they just stretched it out over the course of the film, and I did think there were certain scenes where it was like, this kind of like slow,
doesn't suit it.
Droning version. It would like there was bits where the bit where Superman caught the building and was like holding it, and the woman was looking at him. We could really do with like a rousing.
Absolutely. Why are they afraid?
Something like that really would have sung.
But why are they afraid? Like, just play it. Like, the fans want it. Just play it, even if it's not the exact same version of it. Just give us a triumphant march.
That's fair. I did respect that they took it and did something different with it.
Yes.
And it wasn't just Superman Returns again,
Yeah.
But I agree. And I would say as well, I did think going into this that, there's going to be like other flavors. There's going to be other themes, the other notable themes in this, like there was in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. If you're going to use John Williams, fair enough, we're probably not using the Krypton theme in this, but the love theme would have really...
Yes.
There was that lovely scene at the end where they take off, like a bit of dun, 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 dun. That would have been absolutely glorious in that moment. And I think there is a love theme in this, but it didn't.
I understand wanting to put your own stamp on it and stuff, but I just think when things are working, just let it work.
Can I offer a little theory there as well?
Sure.
There's 2 composers here. And given how underwhelming the score is, I suspect that maybe one composer went, right, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah.
And then they brought in the other guy, and he just sort of did what he was told. I'm just guessing, right? But I kind of got that vibe, because you have David Murphy, who is, this incredible acclaimed composer, and he's done all these amazing movies. And then you had this other guy whose name I didn't remember. And apologies if I'm kind of... if I'm speaking out of turn here, but it felt like he was more of a hired gun.
Yeah, no pun intended.
So yeah, look, I agree. I liked, as I said, I liked the idea of using John Williams and using the theme and changing it up and changing the sort of feel of it. But yeah, I agree. This was not like I would say the Man of Steel score was way better than this.
I'd even say like the Superman Returns, where they took the John Williams music but added enough of their own. Is it John Murphy did that one? Is it?
John Ottman did
John
that.
Ottman,
Yeah,
sorry.
and yeah, like the scene for me in Superman Returns where he saves the boat and
Yeah.
the fanfare really kicks in.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Superman
great.
moments ever, and a big part of it is the music. It's just there's like a choir running under it. It's really beautiful score. This was fine. It was functional. It was more memorable, I would say, than like a lot of MCU scores.
Oh,
but that's damning with faint praise.
Yeah. Yeah, just if anyone's listening, my audio seems to have changed again. It's because I moved back into the man cave there. Just in case anybody is like, what's going on with Alan's audio? I don't know if it'll sound different or not. I'm looking, I will see it again. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I'm hoping that I come out with it now that I kind of know what I'm walking into, with a newfound appreciation for it. But it just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of just felt like I had been sideswiped or something, and it took me so long to recover from that I just couldn't get back. I struggled to get back into it. Maybe without even realizing it, the things that I had set up in my own mind that I was going to see finally on screen, even if I hadn't acknowledged that externally, when I didn't get those, because like I do like the characterization of Superman. I love the characterization of Lois Lane. I like what they did with Lex. I just think when it comes to Lex, I don't want to be too harsh on it. Like I honestly think Nicholas Hoult did a fantastic job. I think I would have just liked a little bit more nuance when it came to him. I think he started very high. He was already very angry and aggressive at the very, very beginning. That I found, I didn't think he had much. He kind of had to push it up to a 13 then by the end, where I would have liked maybe
17.
17 maybe. I would have liked maybe a little more of that Rosenbaum kind of just complexity to him, I think. I can't fault any. There's one thing I cannot do. I cannot fault any of the performances or any of the actors in this. I all think, even I was critical earlier on of sorry, excuse me. Even I was critical earlier on of the lack of development in terms of people like Cat Grant has nothing to do here. I don't think
nothing to do.
She has nothing to do. It really just stank of James Gunn wanting to put his friend in this movie. She has nothing to do in it, but the few jokes that Steve Lombard had, I thought landed myself. I thought they were very good. Like when he was trying to talk to his cat on the phone, I thought was quite funny. And what little we did get of Perry White, I enjoyed. I just would have liked to have seen more. That I would have liked to have seen. You said earlier on that the scene in relation to the Daily Planet was one of the strongest Daily Planet scenes we've had in cinema in terms of cinematic Superman movies. I would like to have seen a lot more of that. I would have liked to have seen a lot more of Clark Kent in the newsroom. Like there's a question as to Clark's kind of, his morality when it comes to what he's doing as Clark Kent as well, I think, which could be explored. And Lois even points it out. He's constantly interviewing Superman. Like he's getting ahead. And I understand, like we've done that in other versions.
We haven't really.
Well, we've seen it in the comics where he does that to get the job initially. He covers the story. I don't like the fact that he would keep doing that to kind of keep up with everybody else and to be at the top of his game. He's Peter Parkering it, for want of a better term. And I would have liked to have gone into that a little bit more. Lois is poking fun at him in relation to it. I would have liked to have explored that a little bit more. But that dynamic in the Daily Planet, I thought we were going to get a lot more of that. And I think I was disappointed by the fact that we got 1-2 scenes in the Daily Planet, and then everything else was Superman being Superman.
I like to view these things as like singular standalone pieces, right?
Yeah.
And I think I have done that so far. But in terms of like going forward, I think the sky's the limit. Like, and they're already talking. James Gunn, I saw something yesterday. They might be doing a Jimmy Olsen spin-off. That means we'll be seeing way more of like Michaela Hoover as Cat Grant, Wendell Pierce as Perry White, Beck. What's his name? He was great as Steve Lombard.
Fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he was.
Steve Lombard was in Man of Steel. What was he in that?
Yeah.
He was nothing. He was just like can't just throw away comic relief in like one scene, you know, after like 70,000 people had died, you know. He was so good in this, but like everything you're saying is valid, right? But I do think that there is, the sky's the limit there. They could do an awful lot more with all those guys, and I suspect they actually will. I stand to be corrected on that.
I'm hoping so, and I hope it's not going to be like a Batman 2 situation where we're waiting 5-6 years for like the next one needs to be kind of coming out pretty soon. Like they need to keep.
Supergirl's coming out next year.
Is it next year? It's coming out.
Yeah,
and
it's shot, it's ready, it's in the can. Like if this film flops, we'll still see Supergirl.
Okay,
and like. There will be now. The Daily Planet cast probably won't be in it, but like, there will be stuff that'll carry on.
Because it's World of Tomorrow, isn't it? It's
Woman of Tomorrow.
Woman of
but
Tomorrow.
Like
sorry.
Lobo's in it, so they're obviously changing some stuff.
Yeah.
You know. I'm interested to see how they handle that. I do think I'm delighted that I read Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
It primed me for this kind of party girl, drunk Supergirl, who I think a lot of people are not going to like if they haven't read that comic. And I would absolutely, you know, do not feel like you need to read any comics or do anything going into this film. I think you're better off not knowing anything, or you don't need any context. And I think it's wrong when people say, oh, you must read this and you must appreciate this going into. I never think that should be the case for these movies that cost $300 million.
What did you think? What did you think of the hypnotic glasses?
It annoyed me that James Gunn brought it up in an interview, and I thought that was dumb, and I was frustrated when he did that. I thought as a gag in this film where there's so much crazy shit going on and everything's bonkers, I was kind of like, that works, like Guy Gardner making fun of him, and Lois like, God, he's just sharing his secret identity with everyone. In that moment, I thought it was kind of funny. I obviously, we talked about it before, I don't love that idea, you know? But this film and the vibe it was going for, you know, we're always talking about verisimilitude. This flies in the face of
it. Does, to be fair, it does, yeah.
Everything is crazy. Everything is bonkers. Like, it feels like an alternate. It doesn't feel like the real world at all, you know, whereas every other Superman movie we've had, even Superman Returns to a certain extent, it's like they're all going for this kind of quasi-reality.
This is a living, breathing comic book.
This is bananas, this one. And that's why I make the Batman Forever comparison.
Yeah.
This is not the real world at all. It's a rule where normal rules do not apply, or whatever Chase Meridian says. So with that in mind, I was like, yeah, that's a fun gag, you know, just in passing, Guy Gardner's making fun of him. It's not my favorite way of doing things.
Yeah.
But neither is Evil Krypton. You know, we're having fun. We're doing different stuff here, you know? And but sorry, to my point about James Gunn bringing it up in an interview, had it just come up in the film and I didn't know anything about it in advance, it would have been a stronger gag for it, you know?
Do you think he made a mistake? Do you think he made a mistake just in terms of, we're talking about James Gunn there, and kind of over exposure maybe, or over you know, just giving us too much information before we went in? Like, did you find that criticism I had around the film, that the first 10-15 minutes, like, it just felt like I had seen all this? Like, do you think it was a mistake to release the trailer the way he did, with so much of that first kind of 10 minutes in it?
Did you see the box office tracking?
No, I haven't. I have checked out nothing in relation to this.
I think for us diehard, dyed-in-the-wool Superman fans, yes, it was frustrating, and yes, he was annoying. And like, I was by the end of the film, I was like, thank God he didn't have a fucking cameo in this, or you know,
he didn't try and Stan Lee it. Yeah.
There was an awful, like, I did find him in the marketing phase of this film a bit irritating and aggravating. But you know what, man?
It worked.
I think it fucking worked. It put bums on seats. My cinema was packed, and like, we need to make the point that in Ireland, it's not like America where people actually go to the cinema to retreat from the sun. Like, in Ireland, when the sun shines, it's a thing that happens like a couple of times a year. Like, I'm looking at my hand with single fingers. People do not want to like leave the beautiful sunshine and sit in a cinema in the dark for 2 hours. Yeah. This cinema was packed full of people. I think, you know, we can say he's annoying. You know, all of our friends can be irritated by him, but my God, did that man do his job. He got bums in seats, and it sounds like this is going to be huge. It sounds like it is doing better than they expected to do in the opening weekend. And I think something like the advanced preview sold better than Barbie.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't expect it to do better than Barbie. I don't think it'll have that sort of staying power, but I think this finally will be the box office smash. That
a lot of it will come down to word of mouth as well.
Stand to be corrected on this, but I do suspect that this.
A lot of it will come down to word of mouth though
hit.
as well. Do you think? I think a lot of people are going to wait to see. Like it kind of
Have you
depends.
gone on Letterboxd
Are
lately?
people going to come out? Are people going to come out more like me with a kind of a negative?
Have you gone on Letterboxd lately?
No.
What would you say out of 5 that it's holding out on Letterboxd right now? And Letterboxd, by the way, is not comic book fans. It's not like Rotten Tomatoes where it's snobby film critics that don't like superheroes.
Out of 5 on Letterboxd, I'd say 3.
4.
Okay.
It's getting ecstatic reviews from like snobby people on Letterboxd. It's doing really, really well. People who are surprised by how much they enjoyed it. I think the word of mouth of this is going to be phenomenal. I think there will be a contingent of Superman fans who don't like it, and I think the vibe and the tone will not be for everyone. And you know, people will. I think there is a contingent of people who will find it annoying. But it just worked for me, man. You know, I thought 2 things I'll say. I thought the whole idea that kindness is the new punk rock.
Yeah,
that is a fantastic like way to think of Superman. Like that. Yeah, the idea that he's kind of so nice is kind of boring and old fashioned or whatever. In today's world,
that's the counterculture basically. That being a decent guy is just the counterculture now because everybody's a dick.
That is a fantastic idea. Second thing I'll say, I don't think fan service is something you can pat a movie on the back for. That's just something that we enjoy. That's just an added bonus. It's not something that you can. What does Superman say to Lois right before he gives her the magic kiss in Superman 2?
I off the top of my head, I've seen that film 7,000 times. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
In the Fortress of Solitude, he loses his powers and he walks up to her and she says, I don't know what to say. This is in the fucking motherfucking Richard Lester cut, by the way, not the Donner cut. He says, I don't know what to say. And Superman says, just tell me you love me. And then at the end of the film, the Lois is just...
Oh, and she doesn't actually say it though.
She's opened up to him,
Yeah.
and she's crying her eyes out, and it's like being married to a doctor.
Yes.
It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. It's why I will never prefer the doctor.
And they redo it, with the other way.
And he says, Lois, I don't know what to say, and she says, just tell me you love me, and he never says it.
Yeah.
And in this motherfucking film, he says, Lois, I love you, and I should have told you that years ago. Fucking lost it at that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Lost it at that.
Look, it's
and like if that is a reference, it's my favorite reference to anything ever.
Yeah, I think. Look, I get it. I can see why you feel so strongly for it. I am disappointed that I'm not feeling it the same way that you are, and that obviously a lot of members of the public are. I am really hoping that it does really, really well. I'm really hoping that we get more stories set in this universe. I want to see the sequels. I want to see where this goes. A Jimmy Olsen TV show sounds fantastic. Sign me up. I'm all into that. I want to be in this Daily Planet. I want to spend more time with Lois, Jimmy, Perry, Steve Lombard, all these people. I want to see the dynamics of this. I don't feel the connection to this. And again, on first viewing, when I came out, I wasn't filled with that excitement and joy and hope for the future that and connection to it that I really, really wanted to feel coming out. When I have a friend, Dave Power, we saw Superman Returns, and when he found out that I had a Superman podcast, he was like, I should come on and explain to everybody about how you told me that Superman Returns was the greatest movie ever made after we had seen it in 2006. You know, and I did come out of Superman Returns going, that was brilliant. I loved it. It was, you know. And over time, obviously, I kind of came around to thinking, well, actually, maybe it wasn't as great. And that started as soon as I got it on DVD. I only saw that once in the cinema. And as soon as I got it on DVD and I rewatched it, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't as great as I initially thought it was. I'm hoping this will be the opposite. I'm hoping this will be the opposite where it builds for me over time. And I'm open to that. I'm not going to shut myself off. I'm not going to try and say, look, scrap this, start again, get someone new, recast, all the, like the building blocks are there. It's just the way they were put together that kind of I'm iffy about, to be honest.
Yeah. And by the way, I really want to stress this point. I hope I'm not coming across combative and saying like, oh, you're wrong to feel this way or whatever. I completely respect your opinion on this, and it's an opinion that I feel a lot of people share.
Yes.
and it is a valid. The criticisms you have are valid, and they are criticisms that a lot of people have, and I think that's important to acknowledge. And I really, really feel like this film will not be for everyone.
Yeah. I have to say one thing. I am delighted at the fact that you loved it so much and it brought you so much joy, because what I was very worried about was that it would just be the two of us shitting on this thing for an hour and a half, and I did not want that.
And that's the other point. The point you made there about, I came out of Superman Returns, loved it. I feel like I came out of Superman Returns and told myself that I loved it.
Yes.
And Man of Steel, I definitely loved it in the moment, and then like 40 minutes later, and I was surrounded by friends who were just feeling really glum, and I think the collective energy really sank that film for me, and by the following day I was like, oh Jesus, that was a bit stupid and whatever. This film, I really have to stress, I had a weight in my chest going into it, going, oh God, we're going to go through this all over again now, and I'm not going to like this, and it's going to be painful, and it's going to take all the energy, it's going to take all the momentum out of the podcast, and everything. It's just going to be, and Saoirse said, are you excited? And I said, no, to be honest, I'm just feeling anxious. And all the way up through everything, and the first half an hour, and then the film absolutely won me over.
Excellent.
I cannot, I am not lying about that. That is a thing that physically happened to me watching this,
Yeah.
And now, but in terms of where we go from here and all that kind of stuff, I need to stress this point as well. The tone and the approach and the execution of this, for me, it really, really worked, but it's such a precise tone.
Yeah.
And it's such a precise way of doing this. I don't feel like this is necessarily a viable template for a cinematic universe. And I feel like James Gunn handing this film over to other directors and go, oh yeah, now replicate that as they've done in the MCU with Iron Man, I feel like that could end disastrously. And I feel like we've already seen evidence of that in The Flash. It's like, people who are not James Gunn will not be able to just
pull
make
this off as well.
Films like this, and that could end disastrously.
Yeah.
So I just want it to be said right now, because everybody always says, everyone who likes Batman Forever makes the same point. It's like, people lump it in with Batman and Robin because Batman and Robin was so bad. All we need is one terrible film and everyone will forget about this one, I tell you.
Yeah.
I
am optimistic about Woman of Tomorrow, though, because I love that book so much. When we covered that last year, I fell in love with that book to a huge extent. And seeing the cameo by Millie at the end of this film, I know it's going to shock some people. I know it's not technically is it the Supergirl that I want my daughter to watch? I don't know. When she's this young, probably not. Maybe when she's a little bit older. But I have to say, seeing that comic book version on screen got me excited for that film.
You mentioned your daughter there, and we had a question. I'm going to pull up his name here. One of our fans in the Facebook group, Adam Edward Hare, was really, really keen to hear. First of all, I think he sort of assumed you were bringing Alana Jean to this.
No, I'd never bring her the first time. I'd never bring her the first time. Is it suitable for her? Is that the question?
And did she like it? Yeah, so she obviously hasn't
seen it.
Is it suitable for her? Will you show it to her?
Strangely enough, I think it is suitable for her. The issue, it's a very minor issue I have. There's a lot of unnecessary swearing in this film.
I agree with that.
There's asshole is thrown out. There's a joke that didn't land, and I'm half wondering, did I mishear it when it was said, where someone refers to him as a super shit or something like that?
Yeah.
That didn't land. Nobody laughed at that in my screening anyway. I don't know if they laughed at it in yours. And that's also another point. Maybe I did myself a bit of a disservice by seeing it at the time that I saw it. I was so concerned about somebody asshole ruining it for me by being on their phone that I consciously went at 2:30 on the hottest day of the year to try and minimize the chance that would happen. Whereas maybe if I had seen it at the 8 p.m. showing on a Saturday, I got to experience the audience reaction to it, that would have upped the entire experience. The film itself, I think, is absolutely suitable for kids. There might be some scary parts in terms of the pocket dimension and the effects on Superman. When the kryptonite affects him, he gets kind of all. But other than that,
fucking kryptonite, finally they got it right.
They got the kryptonite right. Work rate. Even after he's exposed to it, he still suffers the effects.
Doesn't get his powers back straight away.
Doesn't get his powers.
I love that. I was like, it never makes sense, even in Mind Games, my favourite episode of Superboy. you know, he's exposed to kryptonite and he's really, really weak, and then the kryptonite goes away and suddenly he's Superman again. Doesn't make any sense. Here, they pointed that out. It's like, no, I need sunlight. I'm not just magically better straight away. Sorry, go on.
But I don't understand the inclusion of, and I'm not trying to be a prude or anything, but if it's a Superman movie for kids, we don't need swearing in it. You know, maybe one well placed for dramatic effect or emphasis or something, that's fine. It's a similar issue I had with some of the new Star Trek stuff. I don't see the reason for it, and I think it kind of just brings it down a level. In terms of the film, that's my only concern for Alana Jean is the super. But we're not too prudish around here in terms of that kind of stuff. Anyway, she's heard her father swear plenty of times. Don't worry.
My goodness. I agree. I think it felt very much in the same vein as like Back to the Future. You know, there'd be a couple of bullshits here, a couple of you know, craps there. You know, it wasn't overbearing, but then it kind of got to the point where it just they pushed the boat out just a tad too far. Yeah. And like there's a bit where Superman's like, I remember how his piss smelled, and I was like, can we have a Superman movie where we don't bring up urine? Yeah. Like, could we just do that, please? You know, that annoyed me a bit, but by and large, I think this is a film that'll play.
Can I say something else? I'm just conscious of the fact that I was very negative. Can I say something else that I actually thoroughly enjoyed was the Kents themselves. I really, brilliant. And I think a lot of people will have issues with the Kents, with Jonathan and Martha. They're depicted very differently here because they feel like real country people. They're not John Schneider, you know, with his 8-pack out, you know, hammering in a fence or whatever. I live in a rural area with a lot of country people, and this is what country people are like, man. And it reminded me of like if the farmer down the street, his wife had a child, like this is what she's like. And I thought they absolutely nailed it. And I think a lot of people are going to feel like that. I heard someone say something along the lines. Someone said something very mean about the actor's weight and the fact that they came across like they were on welfare or something like that. Yeah, a lot of farmers are. You know, a lot of farmers are struggle financially. The house isn't some picture perfect OC house. It's a small bungalow in the country, and they're struggling to make ends meet. And the house is bare bones. And Jonathan doesn't seem too healthy. Love it all. I just think I have to say I thought that really, really worked.
1000%, and it makes the whole idea of the Kents more beautiful. You know, like that you know, this unassuming man could just be so wise. That's the magic of Superman. That's why the whole idea works. Yes. That's why it's. You know, I'm getting emotional again now. Like I absolutely.
I can't believe it took 72 episodes for you to cry on the podcast.
I cried in the Superman and Lois episode.
Did you?
Yeah, talking about brothers, I remember that one. But I completely agree with you. And it was like, this is fucking, again, it's like, this is what Zack Snyder was trying to do, but he, you know, it's better here. Yeah. Like, you know, now, and I completely agree. It's like the genius was not casting, you know, Kevin Costner and Diane Lane are two very, very hot people. Yeah. John Schneider and Ed O'Toole are like very famously hot people. You know,
very attractive people.
I think it was a stroke of genius, and they even had the accents, like they had proper country accents, but it didn't feel like he was making fun of them either.
Martha Kent ringing her son is how my grandmother, who would be roughly the woman's maybe 10 years older than this woman, would ring me on the mobile phone. Like it's exactly like I spoke previously about how I really connected with that dynamic of the Superman character as I grew older, and I was a cop up the country, and I would travel home when I needed to just, you know, be at home and talk to my grandparents and consult with them and go through all my issues with them or whatever, or seek their advices and their wisdom and all that kind of stuff. If my grandmother rings me, that's exactly how she rings me. You know, I have to spend 10 minutes trying to explain to my grandfather to stop pushing buttons on his phone when he's trying to talk to me. That's exactly what it's like. And I have to say I really enjoyed that. And I have to say as well, I feel more positive coming out of recording this episode than I did coming into this episode. And that's a good thing as well. I am looking forward to seeing it again. Whereas when I woke up this morning, I said we got up at like 7 a.m. this morning to record this. And again, if you hear background audio and coffee machines or my daughter running around the background, that's the side effect of being up at like 7 o'clock in the morning. But I have to say that I feel a lot more positive towards going to see it again than I did when we started recording. So that's something.
And yeah, I've mentioned this once or twice, but like our relationship with this film will change.
Yes.
You know, and I'm coming off one viewing of it. I could feel totally different in a week. I could feel very different in 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
When I came out of Man of Steel, I thought it was great, and then it sort of subsided after a while. That could happen too, you know? And I think I just watching it, I was like, oh, this is a film I'm probably going to be, you know, thinking about and probably watching for the rest of my life, just like all the other Superman films are, even the ones I don't like, you know? And I was like, I'm looking forward to having this sit with me and going on that journey with it, you know? So yeah. So, any final thoughts or points you wanted to make, or are you happy?
No, I hope I didn't come across too negative about it, and I hope I didn't put. What I really don't want to do is put anybody off going to see it. I hope that anybody who listens to this, especially the spoiler the portion of it, waits until after they've seen the film before they listen, because I would hate to kind of put a negative energy on anybody before they go in. It's just my initial feelings coming out of it. I hope they change. There's a possibility that they will change, and I am excited to see where this universe goes, which is not something I was when it came to Man of Steel. I wasn't really excited to see where that went. I am excited to see where this goes. Like you mentioned there, the Jimmy Olsen TV show, all that kind of stuff. I can't wait to see more Perry. I can't wait to see more Steve Lombard. I can't wait to see more the Daily Planet dynamic. This is a universe where I'd be very interested to see what's this universe's Brainiac like. You know, because they could literally do anything with him. You know, what's this universe's Parasite like? I'm excited to see all that stuff.
We never even mentioned the fucking dog.
Oh, the dog.
Talk about the dog.
Dog is great. Had no real issues with the dog. I never did. A lot of people were kind of iffy about the dog from the get-go and were like, oh God. I, to be honest, was all about it. I knew my daughter would love it. I think he's a great addition. I think the CGI for the dog was absolutely insane. It was insanely good. You would never know that this was a CGI dog in a million years. You would never. I criticized the CG in terms of, which is why like the CG for the baby alien really put me off, because I thought compared to Crypto, obviously that's where all the money went. But I thought he was great. I thought the characterization of him was great. I thought the reveal at the end, you know, I was expecting it, but a lot of people won't be, that he's not Superman's dog at all. He's Kara's dog. And obviously he's not trained because she's a bit wild and he's a bit wild as a result. Loved all that. And, you know...
There's a bit where Lois is about to pilot Mr. Terrific's craft and Crypto just jumps up on the console and won't move. And he's just sitting there really peaceful, really relaxed, but he's completely in the way.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to start recording a podcast and my cat Cooper does the exact same thing. Absolutely loved Crypto in this. I've said it from day one. He's the reason this is going to make like so much money. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, no, I thought he was a great addition, and we're probably not going to be caught with him for every Superman movie, because they've explained he'll go with Kara in the next film, and we know kind of what happens with Crypto if they go with the book and stuff, and he's a central figure in the book at least, so he probably will be in terms of the film as well. But yeah, no, I have no criticisms in relation to that. My main criticism was just I just felt a lack of context to a lot of these characters going in. That I was, and I felt like I was trying to catch up with the film as it was playing. I felt like I had missed the first film. And I didn't want, I won't rehash all this. I didn't want an origin story. But I wanted just something to kind of ground me in this world a little bit more before we took off on this adventure. And I didn't get that. And that was my big criticism with it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I did not feel that way. And I went in having heard those criticisms from other people, and I did not feel that way at all. Now, I don't know, is that me coming to it as a Superman fan and knowing certain stuff? Or maybe coming to it as a comic book fan more accurately, you know, having read a bunch of comics where you don't have all the information and you kind of just piece it together. Maybe it's that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But for me, this just felt like the start of a new run of comics. It felt more like a comic book than any other Superman film has ever felt. And I felt like it finally, once and for all, flew out from under the shadow of the Donner movies. It paid homage to them. Yeah. Like, it complemented them really nicely in a couple of really, really beautiful
Great job
ways.
with the Fortress, I thought, as well. It was a nice way to do the Fortress, I thought.
Nice way to do the Fortress. I think we both agreed that the music was used well, even if the score wasn't Harmola Bircha, as we would say in Irish. But I thought it complemented the Donner movies really well, but it also did not feel kind of like it had to rehash anything they did, which I even has a problem. Like, even in Man of Steel, I feel like that has that problem.
Yes.
Superman Returns definitely had that problem. All the scripts we've talked about in the past just feel like they're remaking Superman 1 and 2. this truly felt different in
Yes.
the best possible way. So yeah, I'm excited to see where we go. I'm trepidatious to see where we go as well. But I think just above all else, as a standalone Superman film for me, I really, 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 really enjoyed this.
Excellent. I'm thrilled. I'm genuinely really happy that you did, and I'm glad that you brought that balance. Like I said, I was concerned that if we both disliked it as much as I felt I did coming into this, that it would be a very negative, and I did not want that, because I don't think we're known for that in terms of just kind of, we can always I think we always try our best to find the positive in things, and there is a lot to be positive about in relation to this.
And on the topic of being known, if you're listening to this, especially if you're listening to it for the first time, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. We really could use that. They've stagnated a little bit lately. Join us on the Inside the All-Star, the Superfan Podcast Facebook group. We are on Twitter. We are on BLUESKY. We are on Threads. We have a YouTube channel. There's not really much going on there, I'll be honest. Please follow the podcast in any way, shape or form, and let us know what you think of the film. Mm-hmm. We're going to close out with a couple of voice notes that were sent in to us by some listeners.
And if we get any emails, we'll include them maybe in the next Metropolis mailbag. We'll read them out as well.
Yes, perfect. Yeah,
perfect.
Great. Hi guys, Rob here. We just got this lovely email from friend of the show and big fan Jan Rawlings, and I decided it was too good not to put at the end of the episode, so I'm going to read it very quickly here. Hello Alan and Rob, and happy Superman release. Apologies in advance for the monster below. Cannot wait to hear what you two thought of the movie. I hope you enjoyed it, but honestly I have no idea. For me, I found my experience a bit strange. A few days before I saw it on Tuesday, I was getting really anxious that it wasn't going to be good. I realised how excited I was and how much I'd set myself up to be crushed. So while the overall positive reviews say what you want about Rotten Tomatoes, but I usually tend to align with the consensus on a movie, it did make me more confident. I still had a lot of nervous energy going in. I really enjoyed the movie the first time, but I think those nerves kept me from 100% loving it. However, I couldn't stop thinking about it for the next few days, and seeing it again today, the Friday of the release, really made me love it instead of just liking it. My big takeaway is just how much the film nails Superman. Carnswet is an amazing Superman, so different from any other portrayal, and yet he just completely embodies everything about this character, while also feeling more like a real guy you could actually know than anyone since Dean Cain, much as I hate to praise him after all the stupid bullshit he said this week. I don't know if many actors could deliver lines like good gosh and golly with the conviction and charm he does. I think his arc in the film is brilliant. I'm already seeing some ridiculous takes on how the Jor-El Lara twist is anti-immigrant that make me want to bash my head against a wall. And I think this is the first Superman movie of the 21st century that'll make people actually like Superman more walking out. More on the Jor-El thing, Clark pointedly tells Lois during the interview scene that the people of Jarhanpur do not deserve to be massacred because their country has a problematic political history. It is insane to me that anyone can see that and think that the movie is somehow anti-immigrant just because of the Jor-El twist. The movie, in my opinion, is commenting on how bad faith actors use a kernel of truth and twist it to fearmonger. Nothing like that is happening in my great country of America right now. Sorry for this tangent, but the discourse around this is really irritating already, and I think it's in bad faith. If you don't like the twist, fine, but don't say it's problematic. You can just prefer the traditional take on Jor-El as a fan. I also prefer benevolent Jor-El, but I think the Kents are more important to the mythology overall, and the change didn't bother me. I think it worked well for the story Gunn wanted to tell. Am I insane here? Would love to think what you think of this. I'm going to jump in right here, Jan, and say I'd say you're pretty happy with the discussion we had, because I agree with you 1,000%. Anywho, back on track. Loved all the rest of the cast, especially Holtz Luthor, and I think it balanced all the characters quite well. I wish Perry White got a bit more to do, but the story didn't have a ton of room for him, and what we got was great. The only actor I was a little bit mixed on was the actress playing the engineer. She was a bit wooden, but not bad by any means. I also love how this movie really felt like it had a lot on its mind with regard to the state of the world in America in 2025. That was refreshing to me after how the last Captain America movie was so toothless with its supposed political thriller tone. Hell, I think this movie is more political than any of those Russo brothers Captain America movies. Lastly, the scene with Clark and Pa Kent and the ending with him watching a home video of his parents really made me cry on the second watch. The Pa scene especially might be one of my new favourite scenes in a comic book movie. I'm literally getting misty-eyed just thinking about it. I'm getting misty-eyed reading this letter, Jan. Overall, loved the movie. Hope you guys did too, but if not, still can't wait to listen. I will be a kid on Christmas when I see this episode fly into my inbox. Cheers. Jan, thank you so much. That was lovely.
So everybody, stay safe, stay super, and take care out there. Enjoy the movie.